Hi there, I'm Josh Foreman. I want to share this idea I had for a new family tradition. I wanted a way to clearly communicate the values that I think are important to my kids. So after reading this book, Raising a Modern Day Knight, I was inspired to come up with a coming of age ceremony for my 13-year-old son. I've got two sons now, one is 16 and the other just turned 13. So this is the second time we've done this and just wanted to show you what it was all about. So, coming of age ceremony. It's one of those anachronistic things that most modern societies just don't do anymore. And I'm not sure why. It seems like a pretty good way to, usher kids into this new stage of life, to communicate, hey, things are different now. It's time to take on new responsibilities, and with that comes, more respect and privileges and that kind of stuff. To let them know how important they are to you, and to give them the tools to help them to grow into adults of substance and character. Of course, the most important thing that you can do for kids is to demonstrate the values that you hold dear. But learning by osmosis has its limitations. And that's where ceremonies can come in, making these ideas explicit and memorable. So that's what I set out to do. Now, being a video game designer, I'm all about communicating ideas through symbols and action. So the first thing I had to do was to figure out what exactly I wanted to communicate, to get across through the ceremony. Besides the obvious, hey, you're older now, it's time to start growing up. Well, my family values are grounded in the Judeo-Christian tradition, so that was a natural place to go to mine the symbols and concepts that would be the building blocks of the ceremony. I decided to choose 12 values that I thought were instrumental to the way I was raised, that were passed on to me by my parents, that I felt make me a better person and help me to love others to the best of my abilities. These are ideals. They're values that I strive to embody. Of course, I never fully achieve these ideals, and I don't expect my children or anyone else to. The point is that they're goals, right? They're a target, something to aim for. This was actually a very interesting challenge for me. I think in general, most people don't really examine or try to articulate their core values. I mean, everyone has value, but distilling that spaghetti of concepts and ideas and emotions and experiences and rules, etc., all, down into a list, it's a fantastic experience, and I recommend it to everyone. Now, instead of doing what most ceremonies do, where you just read a statement or memorize a list or something like that, I wanted something that was more visceral, memorable, and most importantly, something that the kids can keep with them as a reminder. Pulling from the medium of adventure games, which I know pretty well, I thought it would be cool to give them something that they can build on, like a relic that has pieces that you put together to complete. I thought this would work well because I'm not trying to tell my kids, hey, here's my values, good luck. They're still 13. They still have a lot of growing to do. And so hopefully this can be an interactive thing where I'm there helping them to learn how to build these values into their lives. And so this little artifact that I'm creating for them is the mechanism by which we can do that. So I made this ring. It's got 12 slots in it to hold 12 stones, each representing a value. Now, I could have just given them this ring, but I wanted some kind of an event because that's what makes memories. Well, we live in a pretty beautiful part of the world and our family likes to hike, so I thought climbing a mountain would be a good choice. A journey is just the element that I thought would complement this ceremony perfectly. The journey has always been a beautiful metaphor for life. The spatial distance representing a timeline and the physical obstacles or life's difficulties. From the ancient Greek Odyssey to Pilgrim's Progress to Zelda Ocarina of Time, the power of the journey is a timeless truth. So now I had an event and a special place to give the gift, but now I had all this empty space to fill because climbing a mountain takes a while. As a game designer and artist, I'm very cognizant of pacing. And so I thought of more meaningful metaphor to fill that space. One truth that I've learned about life is that sticking to values is hard. It requires sacrifice. So I thought I'd symbolize that by creating stones with the values carved in them, and I'd give these stones to my son as we climb the mountain. I would have them kneel in reverence while I read them the value and why I find it vital and life-giving. Then I'd put the stone in their path. This would slowly build up the burden in a physical way. A reminder that when you opt into a set of values, you're necessarily making choices that can be difficult and sometimes even painful. So, speaking of pain, I wanted this journey to be challenging, not just a walk in the park. There's a balance here, There's on the continuum of coming of age ceremonies. On the one hand, you've got the sweet 16 birthday party, and over on this end, you've got that Amazonian tribe that makes their boys wear mittens full of stinging bullet ants. And, I wanted to be somewhere in there where it's uncomfortable enough to be memorable, not searing, agonizing pain that will scar them for life. A balance. So that's why I had a flexible final part here, where when they're getting near the top of the mountain, depending on how they were faring up to that point, could be more or less difficult. So it went something like this. When we got near the top, I would say, "Hey, are you ready to lose all the weight from these heavy value stones?" To which, of course, they would say, "Yes, definitely ready." So I would take out the stones and put them in my backpack. And just as we were about to start off again, I'd say, "Oh, hold on a minute. You can't live your life with no values. I mean, every decision you make, it's based on some kind of value. So if you're giving these values up, they're going to be replaced with something." And okay, here's where I get a little heavy-handed and preachy. I totally admit it. So I say, if you don't have these, you've got to replace them. So we grabbed bigger, heavier, jagged rocks, and I put the opposite of all these values. Instead of love, there was a hate rock, and instead of wisdom, there's a foolishness rock, right? And so I attached the labels to them and put these 12 heavier rocks in his sack. And then when we were about to start off again, I'd say, "Oh, wait a minute," and we put a blindfold on. And the blindfold is meant to symbolize, when you don't have these solid core values guiding you, you're dangerous to yourself and to others. Okay, and then we go, and they're crawling up the slippery slope to the very top, and I'm making sure they're not actually going to fall and kill themselves. Finally, when we reach the top, we dump the anti-value rocks. We take the labels and we burn them in a little ceremonial fire. And then beneath the ashes is the ring. So now I'm waiting and watching to see my boys take these values to heart. And when I see a real-life demonstration of one of these values, I'll set the matching stone in the ring. And, by the time they're 18, hopefully they've powered up their ring to maximum with all 12 values. Now, of course, we're all human and life is messy. So my meticulously planned scenario is pretty much guaranteed to not play out the way I have it in my head, right? My sons may decide they don't accept my values, or maybe they are just going to mature later in life after they've left the home. I don't know. I'm just trying to do the best I can as a father, given the resources and skills that I have to bestow these ideas on my kids, right? I mean, the goal is just that I want them to be good, loving people. Am I doing it the right way? I don't know. Trying my best. But the overriding message that's more important than any of these things is that I will always love them no matter what. I think as a parent, That's the most valuable thing you can give a kid. So there you go. That's my coming of age ceremony. I hope it was inspirational to someone somewhere. Thanks for watching.